National Innovation Strategy. The nation station Oman FM, with the cooperation of the Research Council, presents Innovation Roadmap, an introduction to National Innovation Strategy from the Research Council.
Hello and welcome to Innovation Roadmap. On our second edition, our guest is once again His Highness Sayyid Dr.Fahad bin Abdullah Al Sayyid, Assistant Secretary General for Innovation Development at the Research Council and the Chairman of the Supervisory Committee of the National Innovation Strategy. And the National Innovation Strategy project is considered as partners in preparation and partners in implementation. But it's looking at the whole of the ecosystem. Right. Looking at Oman's ecosystem currently, what is the exciting element for you?
Well, I think the excitement part is that we started to see signs and actually of that we are in the right direction. There are different entities which support innovation. There are culture change in the universities and the colleges about innovation. There is awareness regarding innovation, intellectual property rights, activities even at the school levels. These are all good signs. These are good indication that everyone in the Sultanate of Oman believe in how the importance of innovation and try their best and efforts to make it and be part of that change for the best, for the future and for the younger generation. I would say there are so many different initiatives have been taken by the government, by the private sectors in setting, for example, two what we call venture capital firms, entities, which mainly on the total of 100 million riyals in the past 2 or 3 years. That's something which was not there. Now we're talking about different factories, group of innovators, engineers who try to help design, implement all the challenges of the different talented, innovative people to produce products. There are so many different competition initiatives which really encourage, help youngsters at different ages and youth to start transferring their talent, their innovation into products, into something which will generate income, generate jobs for them and for the rest. This is something which basically it's very good. It's I think these are a very an excellent sign of the changes the society and the Omanis is going through. And the good thing about it is that it's involved everybody. The government initiatives, the private sector, the individual themselves. These are very good signs to us.
So we are seeing innovators coming forward.
Oh, yes, exactly. The thing is that, we couldn't say that there was no innovation or innovator before, but now I think the base have increased. Mm-hmm. I think the courage and the willingness and the understanding of what's innovation is about, what it takes to become an innovative person, it's changing and it's increasing in terms of numbers.
When we look at the traditional part or the culture of Oman, we do see innovation, whether it is a sundial or the management of the Falaj system, which sometimes you think it's great to even bring it to the corporate level of today's world. Yeah. So there has been innovation, but do you think innovation is now a very complicated affair because it's international and there are patents and there are copyrights and the ideas are moving very fast, and intellectual property right could be wrong if you don't register your ideas. It's very easy if you're going to be on social media talking about it to be adapted by somebody else and recorded as.
Sure, I think it's a bit complicated, as we said, because of the social media, because of what's I think the huge changes in the communication ways. Countries used to be locked previously. Mm-hmm. There was not that much known about it, so basically that's also affected. But again, this is maybe the disadvantage of the new era. But the good advantage is that now you can look at challenges, you can communicate, you will have a much bigger markets. Basically, when you come, for example, let's say a small innovation for a product. Instead of thinking about Oman, you can think about GCC, or Gulf countries, because they have the same culture, the same thing going on. If you talk about Muslim, for example, you go beyond that. If you go look at more things. So this will give people a much wider and a more perspective and a much higher chances for success. Of course, we have to accept the fact is that the higher the ambitions, the higher things, it's a lot of effort in terms of thinking, financing and everything to achieve it. That's the whole thing going on at the end of the day. But it takes the innovation from the local perspective to a much bigger perspective. And that's where the challenge, we know that. Now basically with the new technology, you can buy from everywhere in the world. In a fortnight you will have it with you. Mm-hmm. And that's the challenge. You don't need to open a shop anymore. You don't need to have in every country you go. You use the different Instagram, whatever it is, Facebook, and people will just send you and you can do. So the opportunities comes with the risk. Exactly. So it's a relative thing going on. And again, as you said earlier, the Omanis been and still, they are innovative. The only difference is that previously our innovation came out of necessity. People, because of the shortage of water, they came up with village. But village system is also not confined to the Omanis. You can see it to the different parts of the countries where you go to India and all that stuff. What they did is they managed to look at it and change it according to their need and their water resources. And that's where the innovation comes. Yes. We know that the water channels goes for kilometers in a lot of countries from rivers. And we don't have rivers, we have only springs here. And that's innovation. Innovation, you bring something which is a product. You see the people
with what you have.
Exactly. Or you come with an idea where people did not look at it, never thought about it, and you see it's a necessity where people can come at the end of the day.
Do you also feel innovators, as many as we have today, but also there is a need for focusing on the need of the society?
Sure, I think part of foreign innovation, I would imagine, is that innovation basically for people to succeed is basically trying to solve a problem or a challenge at the end of the day. But success is basically have different aspects of it. Success might be reflected in terms of financial gain. That means it's a product where people going on, and it's also will look at what market you are looking, what geography you are looking at the end of the day. But there are also innovation basically which solve maybe a special problem or a local problem basically, and it's the relief, the mindset or the challenges going on. So basically, I think for people to succeed is they will have to think about it. What's the challenge they are solving, or what the new addition going on. Innovation might come with basically producing or setting a new market or a new product. For example, like Facebook, like Apple, they actually initiated and created markets and a segment of marketing or product which was not there even for people. So that's the whole thing. It's about
creating it.
Exactly. It's part of how smart you are, how innovative you are to create such a thing, whether you are solving a problem or creating a product for people to utilize.
Very interesting.
We'll take a short break and be right back.
National Innovation Strategy Project. We are partners in preparation and partners in implementation. You are listening to the National Innovation Strategy.
Coming back to the National Innovation Strategy itself, because now we were talking about the innovators out there who are major part of the ecosystem.
Right.
In our first discussion, we talked about how the entities, government and the private sector, are also part of this ecosystem. Today we talked about the innovators, but now who will be responsible for the implementation and follow-up of the National Innovation Strategy?
Well, I think the implementation, we are part of it. We are the Research Council, but we are also partner, what we call it, a National Office for Competitiveness. Okay. There is a national competitiveness because I think what have been agreed on and decided by the government that in order for Oman to improve and measure its competitiveness and ranking, they have to look at the different inputs. So there is actually a National Office for Competitiveness, and that National Office looks at around 75 KPIs set by the global, I think the International for Global Competition and the GI index.
Okay.
If you go and look at National Innovation Strategy, you will say 60 to 70% of the KPIs is actually those. And that's basically by doing so well in those.
You will naturally become
Exactly. And that's how you improve your competitiveness in the world, is you setting those things going on. So basically, been agreed that the National Office for Competitiveness will start to look and measure, because there are two things. There is the implementation, which basically the different entities who are going to execute, but we need somebody to monitor those KPIs.
Okay.
And telling them you are doing good this, you are not doing that.
So that's the National Office for
That's the monitor.
Okay.
The implementation is basically well done by our partners, the stakeholders. When it comes to education, it's obviously the Ministry of Education. Higher Education and Research is the Ministry of Higher Education. When it comes to labor and market, and that's where, when it comes to IP, it's the Ministry of Trade and Commerce. These are the way we look at it, identifying them and starting to look at them, because it's their role. We only want to showcase it. When it comes to the Ministry of Information, we said there are actually a lot of efforts which have been either already been done, but it's not spread. There is no spread. There is no awareness. There is no communication about the efforts. And that's why people don't understand it actually at the end of the day.
So is any budget from the Research Council allocated to the implementation of the National Innovation Strategy?
Well, actually, we took the National Innovation Strategy into three stages. We call it, the first stage, we call it is picking or harvesting the low-hanging fruits. These are the efforts. And this is the effort until 2020. And beyond that, up to 2040, basically, we'll start to see or what we call it empowerment. Then we have the comprehensive national strategy, where basically we hope that by that time we will see ranking of Oman went up as we're planning for. There is a lot of activities going on at the end of the day. But there are a small budget for running the show in terms of having the meeting. And the planning was, let's prove that with the efforts we are going, we can have a much better output. And that's also what we call it piloting, doing it in small cases, making small changes in mindset, structuring in the ministries. For example, Ministry of Education, they already have a department for innovation. In the Ministry of Manpower, they also have a section for innovation. Then basically the ministries or the entities themselves will start to have plans, bigger plans. And then I think the role is by negotiating, by planning and giving and making a decision based on evidence to the government that those entities required budget is in place, because they showcased, it improved, it will have a far much higher impact.
Would there be assistance in reaching out this ecosystem to the next level? For example, although it's an ecosystem, each one has its own need.
Right.
Especially the innovators. Are they in touch with the strategy?
No, I think the innovators basically should only feel and have the benefit of the strategy itself. The strategy is not basically targeting the innovation, it's targeting the ecosystem. And the ecosystem is basically, once you have these mechanisms, these tools, these vehicles to promote innovation, to help innovators to find either advice, finance in different aspects at the end of the day, obviously that they will be touched. Instead of having maybe one entity where everybody comes to it, you will have it everywhere, where you have small and where innovators, no matter to their spectrum or the kind of support they need, whether it's small, big, whether it's a huge amount of money or of investment or not, all that stuff. Once that spectrum, the wide spectrum of innovators is really covered, I think that's the direct benefit. The whole system all is that no matter how big the spectrum of innovator, they should be able to get the right kind of support.
So this strategy, although it's not, would you say it is it's already begun, the movement has begun?
Sure.
And so the innovators who are listening to us should be able to benefit from it, because the banks will look at it differently.
Well, I wouldn't say to that extent. I would say to say, well, we reach where everybody goes. No, definitely not. What we're saying is that today is better than yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday better than a year and all that stuff, but we have a very long time to go. And we have also to say a word of caution. It doesn't mean that every innovator will go and find his own way, because there is always KPIs, there is rules and regulation, there is certain requirements. This is very important. But what I can assure you, that any innovator who basically is very sincere, he have a very clear mind of what he want to do. He done his due diligence, that he done search, Googles and everything. He know exactly what he wants, why he don't want it. He will find help one way or another. I can assure you of that. But again, he have to understand that he have to go, he have also to have challenges, he have to have, he might be upset because things will never go the way he wanted from the beginning, because this is a learning. But one way or another, there always will be, and there is always people who can take by his hand and trying to take him where he wants to reach, as long as he is willing to give what it takes.
All those KPIs.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's not one-way direction. It's always. He have to keep in mind that there is always a price for whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's effort, whether it's persistent, whether it's denial. This is the price. And if people are not willing and accepting to take those risks or requirements, there is no use.
So it is part of being an innovator.
Of course, of course. I mean, look at, we always would like to speak about the greatest, Jobs, Steve, what you call it. But those guys struggled, they did not achieve it in one day. They just were persistent, and they continue again and again and again and again, find different ways and all that stuff. Sometimes the door which does not open to you might lead you to a far much bigger door, which is because you think about it differently. It opens a much bigger opportunity for you.
True.
But if you quit, then it's up to you at the end of the day.
That's a very important message. Not to quit.
Of course.
Maybe it's
I mean, everybody can dream.
Yes.
But the thing is that in order for you to achieve your dreams, you have to give what it takes. You have to be persistent. You have to continue and push again and try again and again and again. Everybody can dream.
Now, you are also the chairman of the Supervisory Committee of the National Innovation Strategy. And a major part of that has been quality control.
No, the quality control have its own thing. Now we are only trying to set the tone for the implementation strategy.
Okay.
Previously, when we talking about when the Supervisory Committee was basically trying to manage and see how's things going on, what's the different teams and different pillars going on, and then whatever the outcome of those have to go to the quality control. Those where will judge us and give us some things going on, and the quality control will give its feedback final to the National Committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say is the ultimate dream for the National Innovation Strategy?
I think the ultimate dream for the National Innovation Strategy, where we see Oman and the Omanis reach what we call it the knowledge economy, where people will be able to innovate. The economy will be dependent on 75% of the economy is dependent on the SMEs, where graduates from the universities will, rather than waiting for the government to give them jobs, they will go and create their own jobs, no matter what it is. This is the whole thing. The aim is that, I would say the dream of the National Innovation Strategy is that no matter how big the number of our youth, the graduate, there always will be a job opportunity for them, necessarily not provided by the government. That's the ultimate.
That will be an innovative thinking on itself. The day we think we don't have to depend on just a government job, but there are other job opportunities, or even better, to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, definitely.
Or be an innovator.
Definitely. That's the dream. The dream is that maybe 15, 20, 25 years, people will go. I want to say people might go say, I would say grandchildren. I wouldn't speak that my children, because children, younger children, or our children and grandchildren will go and find jobs opportunities. The way, like what we call it now, the developed countries' economies, where people go on, and that's the ultimate for us.
We'll take a short break and be right back.
National Innovation Strategy Project, sharing the vision and sharing the responsibility. You are listening to the National Innovation Strategy.
We are now looking looking at 25,000 job opportunities which have been
provided by
yes,
the government.
And then here we are talking about, a future where there would be ample enough opportunities.
I will tell you one thing. I will tell you one day, and it's already happening, but on a very much smaller scales. People will quit their government job and they will go and find their own businesses.
They're there because I think it's a fear which stops people.
It's a culture. It's a culture. I will tell you, there are a lot of people now from different parts will never accept to work in the government, no matter what it is. They always will go and have their own businesses. There are people now, in this day,
yes, who do this.
Who said, I've seen it. I've seen people, but these guys who have dreams, and they believe in their dreams. So they took the risk. And I think the latest, one of them, somebody who started maybe 6 years now, he have company which I think somebody put a share or part of it with 2 million riyals recently, last year I think.
So it's already happening.
Oh yeah, but in a much smaller scale.
For the national innovation strategies, do you foresee any challenges at present or in the near future?
I would say if the oil prices goes to $110 a barrel.
That will be a challenge?
Yes.
Because people will begin to relax again.
Exactly.
So it is a need or a necessity that makes a man innovative, as they say in terms of inventions. But today it's not just inventions.
Well, I would say necessity one factor. But again, there are so many different factors which take roles. Because we see a lot of people who are not in need, they are not in necessity, yet they are innovative. There are a lot of people who are in need and necessity, they are not innovative. They wait for somebody to come and pull them and give them a hand. So I think, I would imagine, it's maybe the family, the thing itself, the gene itself at the end of the day, the ambitions of the people. But for one thing for sure is that no one can push anybody to be innovative. If it didn't come from deep inside, it was not a personal incentive for the person to achieve it, no matter what was that incentive for him, whether to be rich, whether to get a status, whether to satisfy a wish, a passion, a hobby, a dream. No one will become an innovative. We see so many talented people, they have but they are not, because they are settled. They don't want that stress. It's only for people who are willing to sacrifice, to face all the challenges, stresses, to reach their goals. And I think that's the way things are going on.
So that's going to be the motivation, because only when there is a motivation they're going to be innovative.
Maybe, or again, and necessity. Again, and necessity. Somebody, for example, is looking for a job. He could not find a job, and then said, "Why I want a job? And this is something which I can solve and find at the end of the day." Innovation is. It doesn't mean that people have to come up with something new, create something out of the blast. It might be having maybe opening a coffee shop with a different taste. That's innovation. He changed only the setup of the people where he can make a living and making a life at the end of the day. Whether it's opening a garage which have system where people instead of coming they can book online, or whatever it is at the end of the day. Innovation might be sitting in a place in a concept. I said, why is this? What happens if we do this? Do you think it will happen? He said yes. And then next day go and do that product, changing a bit where it will add. Innovation, for example, even services where people come now for these big events, there are people who coordinate it, who set it up. This is something was not there. Again, it's coming to the same service where we're saying, he look at it and he say, okay, this is a need, there is a need for these people. If I give this service, if I did this, I only tweak it a bit, I change it a bit. People will have more. That's the whole thing. So innovation is not about bringing a new, creating a new Facebook companies or becoming like a new iPhone. No. This is exactly at the end of the day. People are smart enough to change and create something, create wealth, create satisfaction for them. Whether it's wealth, whether it's happiness, whether fulfillment, whatever it is.
Well, it's a lot of inspiration.
Of course.
I think anyone who listens to you right now would want to go find that, because I think it's all within us.
Of course.
It's just an attitude, like you said.
Exactly.
It's a mindset.
Yes.
So on that very note, with all that inspiration, I just want to say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wish that will have a good years and understanding from everybody, and also good should be a motivation for people who are in need of motivation.
Sure.
Yeah, but I think my last word and advice is that no matter how things seems to be bad or dark, if you believe in your dream and you believe that you can do it, just go and do it.
On that note, we wish you a beautiful day and a happy new year.
Thank you very
Greatly
much.
ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been with Innovation Roadmap, and our guest, His Highness Sayyid Dr. Fahad bin Al-Jalanda Al-Said, Assistant Secretary General for Innovation Development at the Research Council, Chairman of the Supervisory Committee for National Innovation Strategy. There's so much to think about and so much you could do as part of this ecosystem as individuals. And with all that inspiration with us, I'm Lakshmi Kaufnath with Ahmed Al-Aremi, thanking you for joining us. We'll be back next week, same time, same place.
National Innovation Strategy. The nation station Oman FM with the cooperation of the Research Council presents Innovation Roadmap, an introduction to National Innovation Strategy from the Research Council.